Hello. How's the mic? Is it okay? This is the end of the day, so you're naturally sleepy. I understand this. If you were going to sleep, just be honest about it. Just put your head way down. I'm cool with it. My name is Julien Smith. That's me on Twitter. I run a company called Breather. I'm the co-founder and CEO. I have a lot to talk about in a little bit of time. Also might end up with some questions afterwards, so we can chat about that. Today is the day of the Twitter IPO. I'm sure all of you know this. In case you don't, today is the day of the Twitter IPO. So I went back. I was one of the first 10,000 users of Twitter. So I went back this morning and I found my first tweet. Here it is. And I'm here to inform you that I still have no idea what I'm doing. But there's something incredibly powerful about this, okay? And what's very interesting is here we are at a conference, not my typical kind of event, an event that's really about physical space and about the sort of transformation of work in the workplace. And what I usually talk about, or what I used to talk about, what I'm known for, is digital space and how technology transforms culture and how it affects us. So I have a really interesting, I think, insight into what will happen in other industries, which also led me to my career now as running a startup. So what are a few of the things that make Twitter work? It's really interesting and very valuable to think about. So first of all, it's absolutely frictionless. It depends on something that's already on your phone, okay, which is SMS. It relies on a technology that is already there. It's the easiest thing you could possibly do. It could not get easier. It is so easy that people tweet about their lunch. That's how easy it is. It's also, besides being easy, it also fits in absolutely every location. It is the smallest unit of information. A book is a very long, big unit of information, but once you can condense it down, all the way down, 140 characters, you're not going to get much smaller than that. The only way that you can get smaller with more information is a picture, and that in and of itself becomes its own very valuable, high-quality piece of information, leads to things like Instagram and other things like that. And what's interesting about this is that those qualities which I'm talking about are qualities that you can apply to absolutely every industry to see how it's transformed. I like to view it as a series of Jenga blocks. You can see how technology will affect industries by looking at every single piece of software or hardware and looking at it and saying, okay, well, what does this allow technology to do? Where does it allow technology to move into? So for example, a company called Uber, which if you're from America or probably a lot of other places you're probably familiar with, it's basically it allows you to call a cab or a black car. It's a very simple concept, so simple that you would almost say, why does a service like this need to exist? But it's a $3 billion company, and it became that size in about 4 years. So the reason that it is so easy and the reason it became such a powerful company is the same reasons as Twitter, because it's frictionless, because it's easy, and because it fits into your existing life exactly the way that it needs to. And it was able to build itself off of existing technology, in this case, the smartphone. So I like to think about the way all things are going to build into each other. They're all going to, one after another, construct themselves and build a new future based on what it is that we see. And this is actually a natural process of life. It is not something that we should be surprised about. It is exactly like the bee and the flower. The bee is exactly what the flower needs to propagate. They evolved together. And the flower is exactly what the bee needs to propagate. They literally use each other and they're a part of the same ecosystem. In the same way, work, employees, freelancers, all of these things are going to become exactly what each other need. So whatever the workforce demands, that's what offices are going to become. Whatever offices need, that's what employees will become. It'll just continue like that. And so you can see different old school networks that have developed, things that are peer-to-peer, which basically means that you remove middlemen. and they ease the transaction in a really easy way. Something like Airbnb, where a hotel is no longer just a hotel, but really it's just a bed, and all you need is the bed, so you can really get the bed anywhere. And it's the same thing as something like Napster, which is so revolutionary that it turns out to be illegal. But all industries will be transformed this way. Every single industry will be transformed regardless of the law, which is very interesting too. So here's this dude, really famous guy, called Mark Andreessen. He invented a company, well, he started a company called Netscape, and he brought it to an IPO. And at the time, it's really like, this is the successful, like Twitter, it was right in the middle of everything. It started the dot-com boom. He has an incredible phrase, which you can, if you remember anything about what it is that I'm talking about today, you should just remember this phrase: software eats the world. What does that mean? First of all, it's software, it's not an animal. How does it eat? Does it go on lunch? If so, what is the length of that lunch? All these things that you really have to ask yourself. Seriously, software is eating the world. And this is not like we're making this up, it's not a fairy tale, it's actually what's happening. So software will look at different industries, and it'll just say, oh, here, I can reach into this thing, great. And it'll just crush it, just like that. And it'll just drop it. And then that will become software. So then software is over here now, so software can then go to something else and just grab that industry and transform that one. And it will continue to do that. Your industry will be transformed in the same way. You can call it the great unbundling. So something is a massive service, and it's a 20 or $100 billion company, whatever it is. And piece by piece, the little parts of it will be taken off. Everything that is large will become small, right? So you can see this in the album becoming the 99-cent track. It became this way, much like the bee and the flower, because of the fact that it is what the consumer demanded of the industry. It is what the consumer wanted, so inevitably it happened because of consumer demand. You could look at examples like Uber, where I want a taxi, I don't want to have to call, I want to make sure the taxi is good. So now Uber allows you to rate that taxi driver. So if you have somebody he was speeding, or he was talking on his cell phone the whole time, or he has his windows down while it's freezing or whatever, you can give him a rating so that other people know that he's 4 stars or not 5 stars or something like that. Every single thing is reduced to its component parts. So this is you from before, or maybe from now, and this is now what has to be you instead. Small pieces loosely joined. So a few years ago, I was thinking about this. I'm lucky. There's only a few things I'm really good at. One of the things that I'm really good at is being there before other people. I'm lucky that I've been able to do that over and over and over again. So I've been able to detect and see a few things happening that I think are going to happen in this industry, and I've placed myself in the company that I am now as a result of that, and I'll tell that story also. So I wrote a few books, and I thought a lot about the way that technology was going to change things. And then as time went on, I turned that attention to my sort of personal obsession, which is the city, and how cities exist now, and what they're doing, and what they need to do in order to survive. Right now, there's 1.5 million people per week, I believe, that are moving into cities all over the world. And I don't know what we're going to do with those people, right? We don't know who they are, or it's just happening to them, to our cities. They're becoming denser and denser and denser. It's happening to a lot of developing world, but it's happening here too. And the reality of the city is that it's mostly filled with public place. It's not filled with private space. And that means that you're always going out and seeking things that you should have, but that you don't actually have access to, such as plugs, such as a lot of other stuff. Everything is also loud at the same time. So private space is also going to become a problem increasingly as time goes on inside of the city. So here I am, and I have hearing problems, right? So I'm always thinking about sound, and I'm always thinking about private space and all these other things. And I thought, well, how am I going to solve this? And my solution is that I was going to try and create private space everywhere. Everywhere. And so I created a company called Breather. which is why I'm here today. So Breather is a network of beautiful spaces inside of a city. It exists. You can download the app, and they're available whenever you want, sometimes 24 hours a day. They can be opened anytime, and they are available for as little as 30 minutes at a given time. They're always very well made. You unlock them with an iPhone app, which you can see on my phone if you're curious. And some people have said that this is what is going to happen to offices in the future. That they're there exactly when you need them, you pay for them when you need them, otherwise they're just gone from your life. Because why would you need it for 24 hours? Why would you pay for it for 24 hours if you don't need it for 24 hours? So sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. And all of this is allowing itself to happen because software is eating the world. This thing, one of the most critical, one of the most key pieces of our lives, I didn't do that on purpose, it just happened, is being transformed right now. So you may not know this, because it depends on what kind of stuff you look at, but this is being turned into a piece of code right now as we speak. It's being replaced by locks like these. This is called an August lock. And you can put it on a door, on a regular deadbolt, and once you do that, you can unlock some of our spaces, which are fundamentally just unlockable with a phone. So I can just literally pull out my phone, and I can press a button, and it will unlock hundreds of doors, literally any of hundreds of doors inside of a city you live in or a city you travel to. Because once you can unlock a single door, you can unlock any number of them. So we built this network out. This is what our spaces look like. They look pretty sweet. They were designed by an award-winning small space designer. And we make them very small for a few people to collaborate or for one person to work by themselves if they want to. It's kind of a radical experiment. We've raised a bunch of venture capital money, and but it's still an experiment, but it's working really well. Now, sometimes the world isn't ready. Office space will not be destroyed, just like in every industry. Twitter did not destroy journalism, right? Journalism was just repurposed by Twitter, and it had to be because Twitter is faster, freer, more available. It's on every mobile phone. It had no choice but to be transformed. So in the same way, office space will have no choice but to be transformed. And I don't know what will do that. I don't know if that's me or if that's somebody else. But it is inevitable because of the fact that software eats the world. So software is going to look at digital locks, which are available now on the market. You could buy them for $150, and you can put it on your door, and then you can securely unlock your own door with a smartphone if you have one. So software is going to look at that and say, I need to build a network of these. Why? Because the consumer demands it. Because the consumer wants that network to exist. And so it'll just happen. It's not even about me. It's not even about anyone in this room. It's sort of bigger than that. That's just the way that technology moves forward. And you can see it in absolutely every piece of what's going on. So it shouldn't surprise you. All of these things will happen. They will all be unbundled. And they're all going to be done probably through your mobile phone. Everything is going to happen through this because this is what the data looks like for smartphones right now. This is PCs are like dead. This is tablets over here. And then smartphones, which are happening. There's literally more smartphones than people on this planet right now. So some people have two. Usually it's a BlackBerry that's sitting on their side, and then something they actually use. This is what our app looks like. It literally works today, and it unlocks doors. It's a lot of fun. So fundamentally, all space is going to be transformed in some way. Once again, not everything is known by me or by anyone, but I always like to think about it this way when I do. I always think, If someone was trying to destroy a certain industry or trying to transform a certain industry, how would they do it? If I ran a giant sort of office space company that was worth a lot of money, and there were tens of thousands of locations, or whatever it is, I could look at my industry and say, what kind of company could be created today that would be able to subvert what we do? Because that's fundamentally what's going to happen. It's how capitalism works. It's a process of creative destruction. And so Chris Hacker, who was up here before me from Herman Miller, said this amazing phrase, and I'd never heard it before, and I immediately opened it up and I thought, my God, that's amazing. Technology needs to be like air. It needs to be absolutely just there without you thinking about it. It's like poetry, this thing. It's amazing. Because that's how the world inevitably will work. It's how people will want, they'll just start using things that are easier, which means that people will make easier things, and so on and so forth, in an evolutionary cycle that leads to technology being like air. And so in the same way, workplaces have to be like air. They have to be instantly usable and obtainable without even thinking about how it's done. So we have the ability to do that together. We have the ability to make that process happen, because once again, that's how the web works. So think about it and let me know what you think. Thank you.